From the family grocery hauler to fire-breathing racing engines, the one name you need to know is USA Motor and Machine, located at 51 Cleveland Avenue in Nashville, Tennessee. Give them a call at 615-726-3725 or at usamotorandmachine.com.
Microcasting for your city, Talkopolis.
Well, welcome back, everybody, to Pit Pass. Joe Williams, Larry Woody, and my man, Malcolm West. Your voice has been heard literally at racetracks across the country. Have you ever sat down and tried to figure out, I did the other day, have you ever sat down and tried to figure out how many people you've actually talked to?
It's amazing, and I've thought about that, and what is amazing is when you really appreciate when you go somewhere and you're standing in line at a grocery store or something like that, and somebody will come say, "Talk again."
Yeah.
Yes, how you doing? I'm at that level, a lot of people know me, but I know you from somewhere.
Yeah.
And that's pretty good. That's pretty cool, and I've had a lot of fun doing that. So.
Malcolm, as you're coming along and your career is progressing, was there anybody that kind of, besides Joe Williams, that you kind of patterned your announcing style or tried to learn from in the big leagues, somewhere like a Barney Hall or a Darrell Waltrip or something like that? And anybody that really stood out and you said, I'd kind of like to be like that guy?
Helen Keller. She was real quiet. No, I'm sorry. Actually, it was Hugh Sweat. He was the former mayor of Central City, and he was the announcer at the little dirt track that Clarence Brewer Sr. owned. Yeah. And he was before his time. He would entertain crowds. In fact, one afternoon we were having time trials. It was close to Derby. The Goodyear blimp was on its way to the Derby, and he worked that. They're coming up, so ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Coming off of turn number 4 is the Goodyear blimp Columbia, visiting to Central City Racetrack here today. Give them a big round of applause. What an amazing way to just jump into a story. But Hugh Sweat, he was the one that I patterned after.
And Malcolm, I think your style and technique reflects this. In those days, and to an extent nowadays, an announcer was sort of an entertainer too. You just didn't inform the crowd what the running order is on the track. You sort of entertained, and like you said, on some of those tracks, you had to fill in the empty spaces too during cautions, lulls, and action, that kind of thing. You're part announcer, part entertainer, weren't you?
Had to be. And we had one time where we gave away, there was a little airplane, a local radio station was doing a promo, and they were going to throw, it sounded fun, they were going to throw dollar bills out on the racetrack. This was at Barron County Speedway in Glasgow, Kentucky. Well, they forgot to figure in that the wind was blowing. And so they opened up the gate where the fans go out on the racetrack, and all the dollar bills came out of the plane, and the wind caught them, and they started going. Well, across on the back straightaway is a farm with bulls.
Oh, no.
In a fence. The fans were over there getting the dollar bills. The bulls were chasing the fans. One fan got whatever bulls do to him.
You knew this was not going to turn out well.
Yeah. This didn't work real well, but one guy that got gored, he didn't sue the racetrack. He got $15. He was happy.
And you thought WKRP throwing turkeys out the helicopter was bad to the bulls. What's the craziest thing you've ever done?
Craziest thing I ever done? Probably when you and I, and this is how we kind of got our job with Nashville Super Speedway in Memphis, when we had to actually entertain the crowd for 8 straight hours.
Oh, that rain delay in the truck race, Larry, you sat through
rain delays. Yeah.
We come with all kinds of contests. Your wife was very helpful on that. We had an ice cream eating contest. And remember, the stage is wet. We gave all these folks, and the folks, again, have had some other liquid other than the rain. And they're on the stage, and whoever gets their ice cream done. But we set the ice cream on the edge of the stage and had to go get the ice cream, eat it, finish it, whoever won.
With their hands behind their back and on their knees.
Yes. And so here they go. And this one guy gets it. He slides, and the stage is very wet. He falls off the edge of the stage, has a laceration on his knee very deep from a nail sticking up out of the stage. He is bleeding profusely, still eating his ice cream.
And won.
And won the contest.
And he was happy.
He was tickled death.
Other than that, Mrs. Lincoln, how did you like to play?
Exactly.
That's right.
Some of the stuff, and the other thing Malcolm has always been good at is, I started to say lying to the crowd. That's not a good one. Creating false,
generating interest.
Yeah, generated interest by lying on what's going on. the camera in the scoring pylon, for example. Oh, you know, ABC is going live right now. They're going to test this to see if it works.
Embellishing is the word you're
Thank
looking
you.
for.
That's see, Larry's a writer and a wordsmith, and I'm not.
I had some embellishment last night. It was really good.
Well, it's the one of the best ones. Larry, got to tell this one. Just got to. So he builds up this big thing one afternoon because we're in a rain delay or something. And the big Dale Earnhardt movie in Nashville.
Dale Earnhart was still alive at the time. Obviously, there have been several Earnhardt movies since then. But I get on the stage and I pick out 5 fans, and I'm saying that, you know, here's the key. We're going to do this movie, and everybody acts out a part of Dale Earnhardt Sr.'s life. Well, Larry Woody thought that we were really going to have a movie, and he hadn't heard anything about it. He was mad at Velma, the operator, because they haven't contacted him about doing a story on the Earnhardt movie. He calls DEI, calls everyone.
I thought if Malcolm West said it, it had to be true.
Well, but Larry, that's the beauty. That's the beauty of what he did or what he does, and that is, you know, never mess. True here. Never mess with the man with the microphone.
No, he fooled me. I mean, he was so sincere about it, and he's talking about this movie that's going to be produced here, and we need some people to act, you know, some extras and that kind of thing, and you'd like to audition, and we need to get it moving along because the producers are going to be in town. I mean, he built it up, and he fooled the old sports writer.
To make you feel better, you're not the only one he got. There were others.
And there was eventually a Dale Earnhardt movie. Malcolm was just a little ahead of his time. As my friend who used to write for USA Today once said, he wrote a story many years ago and referred to the late Bill France Sr., who was still alive at the time, and USA Today ran a correction. We asked the guy about it, Jay Potter, and he said, well, when Mr. France does die, we can say we had it first. so that's kind of like Malcolm with the Earnhardt movie.
Well, Joe paid me back because my hero was Buddy Baker, and he was in the grandstand at the fairgrounds. And Buddy comes in, and they had this set up, and I was working the ambulance service. And Mr. Baker says, "What do you do for your living, young man?" I said, "I drive an ambulance." He said, "I hate ambulance drivers." And I just melted. I said, "How come?" He said, "Well, one time, of course, he's about 7 foot tall, as you know, and they had him in back one of those hearse-type ambulances. He had got hurt at a dirt track, and the door flew open, and he comes out strapped to the gurney, rolls across the racetrack, turns upside down in a mud hole, and he says, 'That's why I hate ambulance drivers.'"
With cars still coming on the racetrack.
Yeah, I've heard Buddy tell that story many times. He says, "I wasn't injured in the crash, but the ambulance ride almost killed me."
That's right.
you got a million of those, haven't you?
Oh gosh, I do. And the fans have been so good to me and been so fun. We've had T-shirt contests. We've had people on the stand who would on the stage who, for a new T-shirt, would take their T-shirt off. It was supposed to be a male competition, and there were several females who did that. That's the reason I'm still on probation as a NASCAR announcer.
Well, it wasn't that bad except for the one, well, this is a family show.
Thank you.
Did she win?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, she did.
She won 2 or 3, actually. The other thing you've got to understand about this guy, a little background on Malcolm, you've heard me tell this story. You've worked for a congressman.
Yes.
You've been elected to political office. You've been a commissioner, a county clerk. You are a certified licensed EMT.
Correct.
And probably saved my life one afternoon when I went tumbling. You've worked for, you've had your own limousine service.
I still do. We've opened it back up. If you need a limo, no, I'm sorry.
Go ahead. That's. You've been involved in a multitude of things.
And PR director, of course.
Yeah.
PR, public relations.
How do you tie all that together?
Well, it's fun because I go out and do some motivational speaking to kids, and I always say it's not where you start, it's where you finish.
Right.
And I've had a lot of fun with that. Either I've been really good at what I do, or I can't keep a job. I've always looked at that way. But
keep looking till you find something.
That's right. But I've had a lot of fun, and so I've made all my goals that I wanted to be: firefighter, broadcaster, politician. I did it all, and everything I do from this point is just fun.
Malcolm, I think listeners around here, particularly in the Nashville, Middle Tennessee area, would be interested in an update on Bruco and what the company is up to, because as we know, Gary Baker and Mike Kerr bought Bruco Motorsports, moved it to Nashville, and it didn't work out. You know, tried to run a nationwide schedule and suspended operations last year. So Baker Kerr Racing is temporarily suspended, but Bruco as a company still is going on in Kentucky, and you still work for them. What are some of the things you do, and still racing related?
Sure. I do a lot of show cars. We have some great major name brand clients that we take care of show car if we do setups, anything to do with racing, we're doing it. It's really a thriving business, and they do all kinds of public relations and marketing, and it's fun. I have a fun job.
But don't actually field a race car.
No, just show cars. You know, that show car won't run over anybody, it won't tear up on the wall, you know, or anything like that. And so, well, I say it won't run over anybody. There's this one time in Mexico. No, anyway, but it's just a lot of fun. It still has that connections of racing. Clarence Burr, Todd Wilkerson, all these folks, Shane Kennedy put together a great marketing company, and they're very well. Here in Nashville, they do a lot of things for a lot of companies.
Any chance they might get a car on the track at some point, or is that something that the Brewer family is just, well, let's...
Well, you mentioned the family. Part of the family wants to, and the other family who takes care of the purse string says no, so we'll leave it at that.
They enjoyed all of that they could stand.
Exactly.
They were a very successful racing team back in those days. You know, like
several wins, came close, won second in a championship one year, fielded, one time we're fielding 3 teams, and so it was a great deal.
Motorsports was a good team, great team.
And probably would have continued under Baker Curb had not
the economy.
That one quick signature that took, because they had the Redman sponsorship at the time,
had a
tobacco product, which is
tobacco.
Fortunately, I guess we can say that.
But,
but one stroke of the pen and that was over.
But the problem is, Gary Baker, who's one of the best marketing people in the country, hasn't been able to get a sponsor, Malcolm, and I think that tells us a lot about maybe the state of the sport, particularly a sport that lives and dies with corporate sponsorships. It's kind of a rough time right now.
And the good news is it's getting better, but it's still pretty bad.
Now, one of the sponsors that you guys had at Bruco for a long while was United States Postal Service, just like Lance Armstrong. Should we go back? Can we go back and have some oil samples or something to look at?
You know, I thought about that, and there's several jokes I could go different ways. But again, that's the 9 o'clock Tonight Show. But it's amazing because even when the Earnhardt folks can't get sponsorships, and Roush Fenway and all these folks can't get sponsorships, so it's pretty tough. But we were very excited that we were launching a pad for Casey Atwood and Jamie McMurray and David Green and many, many others who brought us a lot of wins. Still have a lot of great fans. We get a lot of fan mail still. We get fan mail at the racetrack, at the race shop still.
And one thing, kind of an aside, you did some racing announcing along the way that we
exactly.
mentioned. Are you going to do any more?
Yes, I am. I'll continue with Highland Rim. Got some other avenues that Joe and I are working on to do some things, but I love being, I don't care. I could be sitting and doing Daytona, and I'm just as happy doing Highland Rim or Windy Hollow or Kentucky Motor Speedway up in my home area. I just love announcing.
In some ways, those little tracks are more fun, more entertaining for somebody like you that's part entertainer and part announcer.
Yeah, free hot dogs.
You may have more fun at those little tracks than at a big track where everything is structured and set.
Pretty stressful at the big tracks, as Joe will tell you.
Yeah.
It starts to be a timing issue.
In other words, at Daytona, they wouldn't turn Malcolm loose in the grandstand
They're smart. Yeah,
to interview fans in the stands with a loud
Although
microphone.
I'd love to do it. I'd like to try it one time to show how we do it. Yeah.
The tough part for him, and we'll wrap it up here, but the classic to me, and we talked about it earlier, was when we had Nashville and Memphis, we kind of swapped up so we both could do either. And at Memphis, Malcolm was on stage and I stayed in the tower, and we swapped up at Nashville. And one year we get to Memphis and it rains us out, and it's rained us out like 6 straight races. We race the next day. You just start preparing for it, taking extra flows. Long story short, he's got everything done. He's ready. He's just watching the NASCAR guy to give him the signal because they literally are down to the second on their minute by minutes. And they come in and go, stop everything. It's rained out in New Hampshire. We're taking this race from TNT to NBC. And I told him, I said, hey, buddy, you're about to be on national TV. NBC. This is big time. And he went, fantastic. I said, they said all they got to do is switch the bird over, ready to go. He said, how long will it take? And I turned around and said, how long does it take to switch the bird? And the guy goes, 18 minutes. I radioed down. I said, I got good news and bad news. Remember this? He said, what's that? I said, good news, you're on national TV. I said, the bad news is it's 18 minutes away.
Start talking.
And he, very quickly, I know we're against time here, but right by the first race at Memphis, the cordless mics, can I tell this?
Oh.
The cordless mics messed up. We're on live television. The minister is getting ready to do the prayer, and he can't do it because there's no microphone. Joe says, go with me. The minister bows his head, and Joe's doing the prayer. And the minister just, and Joe's doing a prayer in the tower.
The minister's lip syncing.
He's lip syncing, yeah. I didn't think about that. Yeah. Milli Vanilli made all over again there with the preacher.
There's another great Joe Williams national anthem story we'll save for another segment for some point.
There are stories.
Many of them.
Yeah, we don't have enough time to get through all of them. Thank you for coming in.
It's a pleasure. Thanks for inviting me down. Appreciate you guys. Appreciate your friendship. Appreciate being here.
Malcolm West, the voice of racing from across, definitely across Kentucky, Tennessee, the Southeast. And Larry, Malcolm's not quite reached the announcing equivalent of Larry Woody as a rider, but he's getting close on it.
Nobody does it better. Nobody does it better.
Tell you what, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll wrap all this up, and then we may well go down to the Batter's Box down on Hermitage Avenue. The Batter's Box now serving breakfast, so it's not just great lunch and dinner. You can even get breakfast. That's at the Batter's Box, 43 Hermitage Avenue. We'll be back to wrap up Pit Pass coming up after this.